The Admiral's voice hit like a gunshot across the deck. "Tell me, Commander, what's your confirmed count?" No one breathed. 22 operators stood frozen under the fluorescent glare of the USS Resolute's hangar deck. Boots aligned, faces blank. Only one wore no trace of fear, the woman at the end of the line. Lieutenant Commander Mara Vance didn't move, didn't blink. Her answer came steady, cold. 467, sir. The sound that followed wasn't silence. It was disbelief collapsing on itself. Admiral Robert Halverson's smirk faltered, the laughter from his aides dying halfway through. Every man in formation knew that number. They'd heard it whispered in dark corners of Bud's classrooms, pinned to a single name that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Spectre. Halverson recovered fast, the way politicians do when they realize they're bleeding in public, at ease. He muttered, but no one dared relax. He turned sharply, metals catching the overhead lights like shrapnel. The inspection continued, though everyone's attention stayed locked on her. Mara's eyes didn't follow him. She stared straight ahead beyond the Admiral, beyond the bulkheads, beyond the ocean pressing against steel. Her posture said discipline. Her silence said memory. Chief Cole Ramirez stood 4 men down. He'd seen her type before operators who'd done more than anyone should and carried it quiet. But something about her still unsettled him. The precision, the stillness, like a sniper waiting for wind to settle before the shot. Halverson reached her again, circling like a shark too proud to admit it had bitten steel. "You came from 5th Support, didn't you? Not exactly the pipeline for field work." "Yes, sir, and yet here you are, pretending to be one of my operators." No response. "Tell me, Commander, you ever fired your weapon outside a training range?" Ramirez felt the room constrict, every operator holding their breath for the answer they already knew. Mara finally turned her head, just slightly. "More times than you've authorized." "Sir." A quiet ripple of suppressed laughter ran through the line, the kind that carried equal parts awe and fear. Halverson's jaw tightened. He moved on without another word. When the inspection ended, the men broke formation. No one spoke to her, but every pair of eyes followed as she crossed the deck. She moved like someone trained to vanish between blinks. Up in the observation gallery, the Admiral's aide whispered something to him, something that made his expression crack. He looked down at her departing figure, color draining from his face. The aide held up a tablet, the classified profile glowing on screen. "Sir, that's not a transfer from 5th Support." The Admiral swallowed. Then, quietly, "Find out why Spectre's on my ship." Below. Mara stepped into the corridor. The hum of the engines faded behind her. She exhaled once, the faintest ghost of emotion escaping years of control. She was back in play. And someone had already made the mistake of asking about the count. "Where are you watching from?" "Soldier, drop your city or unit in the comments. The Spectre team reads everyone." The Admiral's office was too clean. Even the air smelled rehearsed polish. Stale coffee. Fear. Lieutenant Commander Mara Vance stood motionless across from Admiral Halverson. The man who'd mocked her hours ago now wouldn't meet her eyes. His hand rested on a sealed black folder, edges worn. Markings: Red Operation Iron Veil, Task Force Revenant, Level Sigma. "Sit," he said. She didn't. Halverson tapped the file once. "Do you know what this is? Something that should have stayed buried." She replied. He leaned back, forcing a smirk. 43 men under my command. All accounted for. 42, Mara said quietly. One was left behind. You signed her death certificate. That landed like shrapnel. Halverson blinked once. Slow. You have no idea what that operation cost. Her voice didn't rise, didn't tremble. I know exactly what it cost. You left me there. A pause, long enough for the hum of the carrier's engines to sound like a heartbeat. I completed the objective. She continued. Secured the intel, covered your evac. Then I watched your bird lift off while my radio went dead. He turned toward the window. reflection fractured by rain streaks. You were presumed KIA. That was the mission profile. No, she said. That was convenience. He turned back, anger bleeding into calculation. You think anyone will believe that you were just another ghost project, deniable, disposable? That's the job. She stepped forward. Then explain why your classified report lists me as the source of the recovered data. His jaw locked. The mask slipped. Where did you get that file? Mara's tone stayed even. From your server, Admiral, before I came aboard. A low buzz crackled through the ship's intercom. His aide's voice broke in urgent. Admiral, counterintelligence officers requesting immediate access to the carrier. Priority level Alpha. Halverson frowned. For what reason? No answer. Just static. Mara's tablet vibrated in her pocket. One line flashed across the encrypted display. Exfil protocol. Initiated, primary asset compromised. Proceed to extraction point Charlie. Authentication Sigma 9. Black Lake. She looked up. Halverson was staring at her, now calculating. Wary. You've been reassigned, he said slowly. Who authorized that? Not you. He reached for her tablet. She moved first one step back, hand hovering near her sidearm. That's not wise. Sir, for a heartbeat. Neither moved. The rain against the portholes drowned the silence. Then footsteps, heavy, measured, more than one pair. Halvorson's complexion drained. They're here. Mara tilted her head slightly. Not for me, he didn't answer. The corridor outside filled with clipped voices. Deck sweep. Confirm ID on female officer. Lieutenant Commander rank. Priority detain. Halvorson looked at her again. You brought them here. No, sir. She reached for the seam in the wall she'd marked days ago, a maintenance shaft hidden behind a bulkhead panel. You did. The lock clanged outside. He took one involuntary step toward her. What are you? Her hand pressed against the panel latch. The part of your report you tried to erase. The door burst open. Black fatigues, no insignia, weapons raised, by the time they cleared the smoke and light. The Admiral stood alone. The shaft gaped open behind his desk, air moving through it like breath through a wound. Down in the narrow dark. Mara slid deeper into the ship's veins, her voice a whisper only the steel could hear. 42 accounted for. A pause. Now make it 43. The crawlspace swallowed her whole oil smell. Warm ducting, the heartbeat thrum of the carrier. Mara Vance slid forward on elbows, counting panels, 2 left turns, 1 drop hatch. She pushed a grating aside and dropped into the comm center like a shadow choosing where to fall. A petty officer spun, hands up. 3 men in black fatigues pivoted with muzzles rising. 7 seconds. She stepped inside their arcs. Jammed a wrist, stowed a pistol, clipped a carotid, swept a leg. Bodies hit deck tiles soft and neat. The last man froze with his finger whitening on a trigger. Her palm pressed a nerve at his jaw and the weapon sighed from his grip. No shots, no screaming. Just the hum of servers and the sound of breath rediscovering itself. Relax, she told the petty officer. Reading his name tape, Harris. You do nothing. You live a simple life. Copy. He swallowed. Copy. Mara slid to the primary terminal, plugged her secure unit, and started breaking past layers of clearance she shouldn't have. The screen stuttered, then opened like a wound that had waited 12 years to bleed. Darjak corridor. Snow blown sideways across a ridge. HK-416 bursts measured like a metronome in hell. A half-buried shape dragging a wounded officer to a landing zone under rotor wash and shrapnel glitter. Halverson, younger by a decade. Head bandaged, shouting into camera, no extraction for Spectre. Mission remains. Mara let the audio ride the room. Harris flinched. She hit one command. Every screen on the Resolute flickered. Mess decks, berthing, flight ops. The Admiral's stateroom, the mountain came alive in cold blue light. Men stopped chewing. Chiefs set coffee down. A helo crew froze mid-pre-flight. on the bridge. Admiral Robert Halverson's reflection turned to a stranger he'd hoped never to meet again. He grabbed for the comms cutover. It denied him. He grabbed for anger. It denied him. 2. Who authorized this? His voice came out thin. Sir. The bridge watch officer stared at the feed. It's pulling priority broadcast protocols. We're locked out. To where Halverson demanded, everywhere, sir, fleet, JSOC, Pentagon. A hatch opened. Chief Cole Ramirez stepped through with the XO, Commander Hayes, flanking him. Ramirez's face gave away nothing. Hayes had a folder in his hand with more weight than paper should carry. Admiral Halverson, Hayes said, calm, formal. By order of the Secretary of the Navy. You are relieved, effective immediately. For a moment, the ship forgot how to breathe. Halverson laughed once. Brittle. On the strength of a training film. The feed cut to the moment he'd hoped was Myth his own voice, ordering a ghost to die so the mission wouldn't. The laughter left him like pressure bleeding from a hull breach. Marine stepped into place without drama. Hands near but not on. Procedure honoring uniform. Even as it removed it. Mara came up from the comms lift, flanked by 2 petty officers who suddenly stood straighter because there are some things you're proud to witness once in a career. She walked onto the bridge and stopped 3 paces off Halverson's shadow. You built a career on a body you signed KIA, she said, not loud, perfectly clear. He stared at her, something human fighting for purchase behind his eyes. It lost, then returned, then lost again. He reached into his pocket, hesitated, and set a scratched dog tag on the chart table. The engraving caught the glow of a radar sweep. Halverson. R. The deck settled. The air leaned closer. I would like to revise my report, he said, voice low enough the ship had to lean in. Spectre carried me back to the bird, against orders. She returned for the package, and for the dead. He removed his stars medal gone heavy in his palm and set them beside the tag. The clink sounded like old steel breaking free of rust. Remember what they cost, Mara said. She slid the stars back to him. He took them with hands that belonged to a younger officer who had wanted to be good. Commander, Hayes said softly. SecNav requests you, now. They crossed to the XO's office. Hayes sealed the hatch, keyed the secure terminal. The screen resolved into Secretary Grace Holloway's face. Night behind her, uncompromising light on her features. Commander Vance, Holloway said. You just lit up half of Washington. Ma'am, Mara said. You were placed aboard Resolute for one reason, Iron Veil's assessment. You completed it. The Secretary's jaw set. The President authorized full scope. Officially, Operation Iron Veil proceeds across all commands. Unofficially, we move before anyone can sanitize. Mara's eyes never left the camera. Understood. Holloway's gaze flicked to something off-screen. Then back. A muscle jumped once in her cheek. 2 things. First, Admiral Halverson will face tribunal. Your testimony isn't a favor. It's a requirement. Good. Second, your extraction order from earlier. Holloway's voice sharpened. We didn't send it. The room cooled. Say again, Hayes said. It was spoofed through a naval intelligence relay we do not control. Holloway leaned forward. Whoever spoofed it has access above my level. Whoever spoofed it knows you're alive. Commander, Mara felt the click inside her. The one that says the map just revealed its real scale. Name! The Secretary's eyes hardened. General Elias Rourke. Hayes went still. Ramirez's knuckles whitened on the chair back. Chairman of Joint, Hayes began, is a title. Holloway cut in. Rourke is a system. He built the parallel chain that used you, that shot at you, that buried you when convenient. A beat. Just breath. Just the hum of the carrier holding itself together. We're recalling you to JSOC. You'll receive parallel orders under my hand and one other. You won't like the other name. Mara didn't blink. I don't need to like it. Good. Holloway exhaled once. Your rendezvous window is narrow. There's a lift spooling on the flight deck. Crew will think it's logistics. It isn't. She paused. You're not a ghost anymore. Commander, ma'am, Mara said. Ghosts don't leave records. Outside. A klaxon barked twice. Hayes checked his repeater. Flight ops reporting unknown traffic shadowing the stack at distance. No transponder. Holloway's eyes cut sideways, someone off-screen speaking fast. When she looked back, the steel had turned to ice. They're early, who Ramirez asked. Holloway didn't answer him. She looked only at Mara. We need you out. Now. Mara nodded once. She reached for the hatch wheel. The secure terminal chirped one more message cutting across the encryption, sliding through a back door no one had admitted existed. It printed 4 words. Hello, 7 Archive compromised. The cursor blinked. The office felt suddenly too small. Mara's hand rested on the wheel. Ma'am, she said, voice steady. They're burning the evidence. Holloway's reply arrived as barely more than breath. Then you'll have to take it from the fire. The klaxon hit steady tone. Somewhere overhead, rotors spooled, the deck thunder growing teeth. Mara turned to Ramirez. Chief, with me. Hayes reached for the hatch control, but the office lights flickered. Once, twice then held. The secure terminal flashed one last line. Uninvited, intimate as a whisper in a dark room. Welcome back, Spectre. And the screen went black. The office screen died. The carrier kept humming like nothing had happened. Chief, with me. Mara said. They hit the passageway at a run. Red lights strobed. Flight ops squawked over the 1MC. On the catwalk above the hangar. Crew stopped pretending not to stare. Word travels on steel. A Seahawk sat nose out on the spot, rotors ticking in the wind. No markings beyond what regs demanded. A crew chief in cranials flashed hand signals go. Go. Hayes pressed a sealed pouch into Mara's palm. Orders from SecNav. Parallel packet. Don't transmit. Ramirez squeezed her shoulder once. I'll keep this ship clean. You won't have to alone. She stepped into the cabin. The door slid. And the carrier fell away like a memory you refused to live inside. The flight out was all engine and weather. No talk, no promises. Over black ocean. The crew chief passed her a headset. Call sign Orion says 5 minutes. A shadow rose from the sea, bigger than it should be. The Seahawk flared and hovered over a slick of darker water. White foam exploded as a lockout chamber opened like a pupil widening. The helicopter coughed them to the deck and then was gone. Swallowed by night, inside the submarine. The air smelled of grease, ozone, and discipline. A woman waited by the pressure door, uniform without insignia, hair pulled back like it had never known indecision. Captain Lena Voss, she said. Her eyes did the measuring a good commander does, then stopped. Spectre, ma'am, walk. They moved through narrow steel arteries until the boat opened into a repurposed command space. 5 figures lifted their heads from a holographic map that pulsed with mountains and vectors. Faces out of missing person reports and closed casket briefings. Marcus Hale, Voss said, Navarro. Ortega, Blackfeather, Revenant Team. Hale nodded once. Eyes like a man who'd outlived his file by stubbornness. Navarro's jaw worked like she was chewing gravel and regret. Ortega's prosthetic feet rested silent on painted steel. Blackfeather's expression said he'd already weighed the room and found only one way out worth taking. Voss tapped the map. A ridgeline appeared, long and cold. Facility Helios 7, on paper, an abandoned signal site. In truth, the Black Archive, Rourke's vault. The boat thrummed beneath them as if impatient. Doors, Mara asked. Voss pointed. Service shaft here. Biometric locks key to 7. I used to be the 8th. A thin smile that never reached her eyes. They deleted me. They didn't delete my back door. Ortega slid a hard case across. Comm suite. Falcon Drive mirror node. If it spins. We copy on the fly. Gear up, Hale said. He laid out an HK-416 upper like a surgeon setting steel. Cold guns only. SIG P226 or Glock 19 for sides. Thermal cloaks in packs. We go wet. LAR-V's, Mara asked. MK-29's, Navarro answered. Longer legs. Mini-climaxes arrived like heartbeats, the hiss of dry suits sealing, the closeness of rebreathers, the weight of a mission settling in bones that had carried too much. Blackfeather unsnapped his blade sheath and looked at Mara. You count names or numbers names, she said. He nodded like that was the right church. Insertion was quiet violence. The ocean pressed its cold into the seams of their wills. They moved as shadows don't purposeful. When the mountain rose, it came all at once a black wall where the world ran out of reasons. They belly-crawled onto rock, water running off them in silver rivulets. Ortega killed exterior sensors with a shaped pulse that smelled like burned snow. Vance led through a cut in the stone that wasn't on any map. The abandoned door greeted her hand like a prodigal. Locks disengaged with a heavy sigh of old secrets, remembering who they belonged to. Inside, the facility breathed conditioned air and hum. Corridors ran precise and empty. Lights held at that clinical temperature that makes everything look like a body bag left open. Too clean, Navarro said. Standard when the system recognizes authority, Vance replied. Moving. They won't deploy until they think we're where they want us. Define where, Hale muttered. The heart. Vance said they reached it with alarming ease. A chamber of servers sang a sterile hymn. In the center, a vault door a foot thick, designed for firestorms. Vance stepped to the panel. Her fingers were the right codes. Lights sequenced, somewhere deep inside. Bolts retreated like grudges giving up. 2 minutes, she said. Mara walked the perimeter, saw the details that tell the truth: 3 disturbed screws on a ceiling panel, dust patterns broken by recent boots, a scent under the coolant tang, that harsh antiseptic smell of fresh bandages and men who sleep in kit. Contact likely overhead, she said softly. Copy, Hale replied. Stepping into cover. The vault cracked like a glacier calving. Inside sat rows of sealed cases, all stamped with classification that used to own her life. Vance went straight to the one with more codes than letters. The Revenant Ledger. She breathed. Every mission, every decision. A sound above them started light, then turned hot, the bite of a thermal cutter chewing concrete. Rourke knew the back door. Navarro said, or learned fast, Ortega added. Already deploying jammers. Comms will go to snow in 30 seconds. Mara keyed her throat mic. Blackfeather, rear exfil blocked. Main shaft sealed. I have a North Ridge alt. But it's ugly. Ugly still up. Vance lifted the case. We have what we came for. Not yet, Mara said. She looked up, past light and dust. We take the hand that wrote it. Steel blue. A diamond of ceiling fell, and men dropped on ropes, no flags, no patches. Everything about them lawless, but the precision. Hale fired 2 controlled bursts, their armor ate it. Navarro threw a flash, Mara was already turned away. Counting breaths, they moved without killing, breaking arms, taking wind, laying men down like grudges in winter. The last rope cut, boots hit. The line of operators stepped aside. A man lowered himself into view without a harness, dropped the last few feet like gravity was a choice he was tired of making. He wore plate, but his face went unprotected, the confidence of someone who owned consequences. His hair was gray at the temples. His eyes were a color that doesn't apologize. General Elias Rourke smiled like a judge at a sentencing. Welcome back, Spectre, he said, and set his thumb on the vault's secondary kill switch. General Elias Rourke's thumb hovered over the vault trigger. Endgame. Commander, he said, walk away and this dies clean. Mara Vance leveled her pistol. Breath steady. Nothing about this is clean. Vance shifted behind the console, eyes flicking toward the charge indicator. If he hits it, the archives burn. Everything, every mission, every name gone. Rourke smiled. Calm as winter. You think justice is data? You think exposing ghosts redeems what you did for me? Her silence was her answer. The first explosion ripped through the upper corridor. Hale's voice cracked over the comms contacts. North approach, and then static swallowed him. Dust fell like ash. Navarro fired short bursts down the hall. Ortega sealed the bulkhead with a magnetic lock, sparks spraying over his prosthetics. They brought heavies, he said through clenched teeth. Rourke's finger tightened. You can't bury me without burying yourself? Mara took one step closer. Maybe that's the point. He squeezed, but the vault's fail-safe light blinked red. Vance had already rerouted the circuit, her hand slick with blood where shrapnel had cut deep. The trigger died useless in Rourke's grip. He stared at her, disbelief breaking composure for the first time. You, she shot him once through the shoulder. Precise, not fatal. You taught us to adapt. Rourke fell, clutching the wound. His voice rasped. You'll never stop it. The next one's already in motion. Mara knelt beside him, taking the encrypted key from his vest. Then we start with this, above. The facility shuddered. Navarro shouted. Charges on the upper deck, they're collapsing. Vance grabbed the case of Umbra files. Extraction point echo. Now they ran through corridors, folding in on themselves, alarms screaming like living things. Smoke-filled lungs, heat turned vision to blur. Ortega staggered under falling debris until Mara hooked his arm over her shoulder. The prosthetic sparked but held. Outside, the world exploded into cold dawn. Helicopter blades pounded the thin mountain air. Ramirez stood at the open door of the Seahawk, one hand outstretched. Move. The team dove aboard as the ridge disintegrated behind them. Rock and dust swallowing Helios 7 forever. Inside the cabin. No one spoke. Vance clutched the case, blood seeping between her fingers. Navarro's eyes stayed on the mountain until it vanished. Hale's channel remained silent. Mara looked at the horizon sun climbing over broken peaks, light catching the frost on her gear. She unlatched the case and saw the mirrored drives inside, each one tagged with a name she recognized. 34 operators. She whispered. We were never ghosts. Ramirez turned from the cockpit. Then what were we? She met his eyes, proof that silence has a cost. The Seahawk banked west, toward open sea, in the distance. Another helicopter rose unmarked, dark, watching. Vance exhaled, fading fast. They'll keep coming. Mara nodded. Then we stay in the light long enough to blind them. Vance smiled once, small and tired. Welcome back. Spectre. Her hand went still. Mara closed the case and looked out through the open door as sunlight poured across the water, bright, merciless, beautiful. For the first time in 12 years, she let the silence stand, and in that silence, the count ended.